Hey everybody, welcome back. I am bored. COVID made me bored, and today at the table I am taking a look at Luchador Mexican Wrestling Dice. This is the second edition. This is a game by Backspindle Games. I've never heard of them before, and when I looked them up, they only have maybe a handful of games, maybe about 4 games. So it doesn't seem like it's like the Come On or the Fantasy Flight Games type of company, and they create small family type games. And this one so happened when it came out in 2014, it won the UK Games Expo Awards for Best Family Game. And this is a game for 2 to 6 players, ages 8 and higher, which I'm sure you could maybe drop it down a couple years, maybe, and help out the younger ones. All they need to understand is the symbol, but at the end of the day, they're just rolling dice, and that's the fun part of it. And it plays in about 15-20 minutes, give or take. Depends how luchador-like you are. And yeah, this is a dice-based wrestling game. Now, maybe 8 months ago, when I picked up another game that I have, Gargoyles, the Awakening board game, I also saw that there was a WWE or WWF wrestling game as well. For some reason, I didn't take a second look at that. I should have, and now it's gone. I don't see it. It might pop up one day at a thrift store or something like that. But I grew up with watching WWF. Hulk Hogan, Bret the Hitman Hart, Ultimate Warrior, obviously my favorite. And there is a little bit of innate wrestling childhood that I grew up with. And when I came across Luchador, which I'm not exactly sure how I came across Luchador, I'm trying to think back, and it must have come up in another dice game search, because I love rolling dice. There's no doubt about it. I have no issues with the randomness. I have no issues with the luck of the roll, and if you're rolling bad, you just suffer badly. I'm okay with that, and I think this is probably one of the reasons why I came up, and I thought, I'm not into Mexican wrestling, but I am into wrestling. I'm assuming they're pretty much the same. A lot of acting, a lot of pretend backbreaking moves, but it's all for fun family entertainment. That's what I was used to. Of course, I never took it seriously, and neither did any of my housemates when we used to watch it a lot in university. That and Buffy the Vampire Slayer. So I thought, okay, let me take a look. It was not at a price point that I would pay. And I couldn't find it anywhere else. So obviously, my only resources are certain online stores, and they typically would jack up the price a little bit, even though there's free shipping. But I decided to wait, and lo and behold, there was a price drop to the point where it was just a little under the retail price of which I would buy it for. And I thought, okay, I'm happy. I read the rule book, seemed really interesting, and I think the first edition, Tom Vazel had a lot of negative reviews about it. At the end of the day, there was very little difference between the characters. You're really rolling dice and matching up dice and seeing who wins out of those dice rolls, which, well, as far as I'm concerned, a lot of these light filler family games, that's what it's about. I don't think this is aimed for the I forgot the too many bones type of person, where there's a lot of strategy, skill, dice placement, or dice management, anything like that. This was kind of aligned with any of the other dice games I have, like Dice Masters or Dragon Ball Z Perfect Cell. Any of those kind of, you just want to roll some dice, hopefully get the right symbols, and achieve certain objectives because of those symbols. But this is the second edition. The second edition, I believe, umps up the ante on this game by incorporating some uniqueness between characters, which I think was something that was needed according to Tom Vazel, as well as a improved playing surface, and I'll get to that in just a minute. But anyways, going back to how I came about this, it was just because it's a dice game, and I'm okay with wrestling. Is there actually any wrestling element in this? No. This is all more theme. This is more about I guess if you're really into Mexican wrestling, it's the text in your character card that you're sort of embodying. You're embodying and imagining as you roll your dice, and whatever hits you land and the type of hit that you land on them, you're maybe taking 30 seconds out of your gameplay to mimic those games and jump off with a luchador mask on, and jump off and fly off the couch, and land that hit. So I think that's what really this is for. It's very lightweight. It's not meant to be strategic in any sense. It's supposed to be silly. I would almost classify this as a filler game, but I'm not going to, because one, size of the box doesn't really count as my filler game. It should be, be able to pack it quickly in the back of your pocket. The number of components is typically more than what I would consider for a filler game. Filler games are just usually maybe cards, a handful of tokens maybe. And then the rule set, there's varying degrees that you can play, different ways that you can play this game. So it's not just one way of playing it. And then on top of that, your character abilities. So all those factor in. While the aspect of just rolling the dice and hoping to land a hit seems very trivial, the rest of the gameplay requires you to actually keep track of certain abilities and certain skills that you have. So when it comes to the rulebook is pretty straightforward. I don't think there's any surprises here. You are basically attempting, if you're playing one-on-one wrestling match, you are attempting to eliminate your player by bringing their health down to 0. Very, very straightforward. There's also an opportunity here to play a tag team, as well as a cage match, which is slightly changing the damage rules, and also a free-for-all, which I think is a fun element if you have more than 2 players. Now, it says 2 to 6. Not exactly sure how that works, because first of all, they give you, well, in terms of health trackers, they give you 8 health trackers, which implies that you can have up to 8. But at the same time, the rulebook only goes up to 4. So I'm not sure where 2 to 6 comes from, but and you only have 4 sets of dice. So it would imply that it's a maximum of 4. So you're going to have all the rules laid out, the different meanings of the dice, how to play. Basically, it follows, in terms of thematic accuracy, it has a very wrestling type feel to it, even though you're not actually doing anything specific that, I guess, outside the text of the characters is really wrestling. You're rolling dice. So it gives you a couple of examples of play, and then it gives you some advanced rules, which is what I'm going to cover. I'll be playing, or I guess running through the advanced rules. And for all intents and purposes, I think that unless you're playing with a younger crowd, don't play the advanced rules. But if you're playing with, I guess, a age-appropriate crowd, then yeah, include the advanced rules. And if you're playing with your buddies, by all means, put on the luchador mask and jump off that sofa and land that elbow onto their back. So there's varying degrees of levels of difficulty that you can do with this game. So I'm going to go through the components and just have a quick look, but that's basically the rulebook. Oh, there's also, one of the big selling points is the building the ring. Now, I believe the first edition had sort of a flat playing surface, which was this. So you basically have the markings of the ring. And really quick, if you're rolling your dice, basically, and you want to roll the dice within the confines of your ring. And whatever results, you resolve them. But any dice that rolls outside of the playing surface, outside of this ring, does not count. So you're obviously being very cautious. It's not a dice chucker, but there are opportunities here to, depending on the roll that you get, you can potentially re-roll a dice. And when you're re-rolling it, you have the potential to either knock your opponent's dice out of the ring, which is kind of funny, or you could potentially knock your own dice into a different face value. So all in all, it captures the essence right here. This is nothing fancy and what I would expect. But for the second edition, they decide to give you a very nice 3-dimensional ring. And at first when I saw this, especially during Tom Vazel's second review on the second edition, which he reversed his opinion and gave it a high praise. I don't think he got the Dice Tower Essentials stamp, but it certainly got an approval. Very nice. And my concern was, first of all, there's no way it's going back in the box. So that means I have to take it apart every single time I want to play. So maybe on a quick game, I just want to pull out the flat mat. But if I really want to get involved, if this is for you advanced players who really want to dive off that sofa, maybe setting up the 3D ring is great for you. And it's not difficult at all, but my concern was, a lot of times with these boards, they slot down together. So if you look at the via the rule book of all the pieces you have. And mind you, just bear in mind right now, I am a little sick, under the weather. You might hear me sniffling or coughing. I really apologize for that, but I'll try to keep it to a minimum. You're going to see you slot in the different sides, and then you have a top that slots in at the very top to create the base. So I was thinking, okay, well, if it's one of those things where, sometimes they're a little bit firm, and as you put it in, it's, pretty stuck, and then it's nice and solid, and then you've got the top, it sits really solid. No, not the case. So it's very, very light. It comes off very easily, and the four sides, they're not slotted in to the point where they're so snug that you could, damage the cardboard as you have frequent plays of this game. My other thought was thinking, oh, maybe I have to leave this out on my shelf as a trophy of some kind to show people, because it does have a great table presence, that's for sure. But there's no concerns here. If you don't tie in the rope too tightly, you can pop it off, so you don't have to retie it every time, and it will come apart fairly easy and then go back into the box fairly easy, which is already a very tight box to begin with, but no issues there. So my initial hesitations, no problems. So moving on to the next set of components, we'll talk about is you're going to have a bunch of luchador wrestlers to choose from. I think there's like 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9. Okay, so 9. And they all have what I'm going to assume very hilarious Mexican names. And they're very colorful. You know what? Maybe I should turn on my light here for a second. Oops, sorry guys. There we go. That's a little bit better. And yeah, they're all very colorful. You got your mix of genders, which is great. Good representation. And you'll be choosing one of these. Now, these are just standees. They come with stands. And do they serve a purpose? No. They serve zero purpose other than standing at the corner of your ring so that you can show off your luchador style. And then that's it. There's no other, they serve no other purpose. The next set, obviously, will be your dice. And you're going to have your wrestling dice. These are your wrestling dice. They come in 4 colors, purple, blue, red, and pink. So they're going to have various, I guess, symbols as you roll them. And I'll go through. So this one, if you roll this one, it's a complete miss. You didn't even land anything. If you get the fist, you land a punch, or you land a hit, which is considered one hit. If you get this roll, it's considered, you have the ability at the end of resolving all the other faces to do a pin on your opponent, which is obviously the 3-count pin. You'll have this one, which is a block. So if you, sorry, let me grab a pink one here. So if my opponent so happened to roll this, I can counter with it with a block, and therefore their hit is negated. I also have this symbol, which is not just a block, but a counter, which gives me the hit instead. So you'll be rolling these 4 dices, these 4 die, and resolving based on the outcome. Now, if you so happen to roll a pin symbol, which was this one, you have the option to re-roll it once. If it rolls again on a pin side, then it doesn't count for anything. Now, just like the original series, original first edition, anything that falls out of the ring becomes is discarded. It doesn't count. So you want to keep it within the the confines of the ring. So clearly I lost a blue. So in this situation, you'll see I've got various results, mostly hits for the pink. I don't know if you can see that. Can you see that clearly? That's good enough. So I've got 4 hits from the pink. I got a block, a counter, and a hit. Now, once you've done the initial roll, anything, let's say I rolled the pin here, and I want to re-roll it. Okay, I get another pin. But if I was re-rolling it, however it turned out, and I just so happened to knock my dice and it flipped it, I would count that result. And if I hit the pink dice and it fell out of the ring, it would be excluded from the resolution phase. So once I've done that, let's just keep the hand there. We now do the sort of the resolve. So you're going to match up how you feel best. So obviously with this punch, I want to block it. With this punch from this particular luchador, I'm going to do a counter. And then I get the the empty hand, which does nothing, so basically is discarded, and then 2 hits. So in total, I should really learn this character's name, but I don't know. The lady on the right has a total of 2 hits because this one was blocked, but 2 successful hits. A hit and another hit do not counter each other, so they're counted separately. So she'll have a total of 2. For the blue team, or the blue side, he would have achieved nothing here, which is a complete block, but this is a counter, which gives him 1 hit and another hit because of his hit face here. So depending on the number of successful hits you receive, it doesn't mean the number of points. What will happen is you're going to roll hit dice, and that's the other piece of the component, which will be these ones. And each one of these has a different face as well, and each type of hit is worth a different value. So let me just... I think the one thing that this thing is missing is sort of a reference chart to tell you what they are and the value. It'd be nice to have a little sort of reference. So this one is a chop, backhand chop. And then you've got, which is worth 1 point of damage. You've got the forehand smash, which is also worth one point of damage. You've got, is it the chokehold that's next? No, it's the drop kick. This one would be the drop kick for 1 point of damage. You've got the chokehold, which is 1 point of damage. Oh, sorry, 2 points of damage. Then you've got the chair smash, I think. Where is the chair smash here? The chair smash, which is 2 points of damage. And you've got the ultimate table smackdown. Sorry, the table slam, which is worth 3 points of damage. So what will happen is, for every hit that you successfully land on your opponent, you will roll one of these hit dice and determine what kind of hit it was and the damage you're going to land on your opponent. Now, there is an option to do a what's called a luchador move, and every character has their own, I'm not going to call it unique, but their own unique text for their luchador move. And that's where you would trade in 2 hits. For every 2 hits you can trade in, instead of rolling the green dice, you would roll this black dice. And with this black dice, depending on the symbol, it would land you 4, 5, or 7 points of damage. So for example, this one is a complete miss. This one is your first level of your luchador hit, which I think they have different names, and I'll get to that in a minute. And then you have, what's the next one? You have this one, which is your, sorry, that's your ultimate one. This one, which is the 5 point damage. And then you have this one, which is a 7 point damage. And then you have this one, which was a failed. Not only did you fail, you failed so miserable that you missed the land and you injured yourself. And on your next round, you are unable to roll one of your dice. So you be rolling 3 instead of 4. Now, had I had a pin here, and I want to keep it as the opportunity to pin, first of all, your opponent has to be pinnable. Now, you start with a health of 21 if you're playing 1v1. And then if your opponent is at 14 or less in terms of health, you can then, after resolving all the dice faces, you can then say, I declare a pin. Okay, you've landed a couple hits, you've missed a couple hits, the same with your opponent, and then finally you get them in a position where you want to do a pin. You then roll the pin die, which is the yellow one. So the pin die has a few faces. One, this is where you're attempting to do a pin. This is an epic fail. You missed it. You tried to get a lock hold on them, but they slithered their way out. This one, you tried to, and in the process of doing so, you stunned your opponent. And as a result, on the next round, or next, I guess, round of the game, your opponent will roll 1 less die. This is the successful pin, and I'll get to that in just a minute in terms of what that means. And then you have the Viva Luchador, which means instead of pinning, you jumped on the ropes. You jumped on the ropes facing the crowd. Oh yeah, I'm the best. And you're just getting them riled up. You're getting the crowd going, cheering you on. And so instead of taking that opportunity, your opponent is lying flat on the ground. Instead of taking that opportunity to pin them, you decided, hey, I want a little bit of glory. And as a result of your glory, you bump up your health by 1. So I actually find this one Viva Luchador very funny, especially when you land it. It's like you want to pin them, but then when you get this one, you're like, oh, I didn't get the pin, but hey, that's awesome. I get 1 point of health back. So it's not like it's a wasted phase. So that basically covers those components. You'll have a couple tokens here to track your health on your character card. Oh, of course, I have to go through the character cards, and you also have several tokens in terms of more play opportunities, which is, for example, a free for all, where you can have, I believe, makes sense, up to 4, and you can randomize the order in which you are resolving your attacks. I guess you can choose who to attack. So, when it comes to the cards, you're going to have standard health cards. So you have basically they all start at 21, and this is for 2 players. It gives you a quick reference for these, which, sorry, excuse my previous comment, there is your reference there. It's the other references for the Luchador dice, the pin die, and a few of the other things that I feel it'd be nice to have a quick reference card. And then if you are playing 4 players or tag team, you would reduce your health and start at 18 instead. Now, I'll get into tag. Well, you know what? Tag team rules are very similar, except for the fact that you have the opportunity to tag your team member in. I find that kind of strange. I feel like after having a few solo plays of this, I feel like you're just better off doing the free for all. If you want to do tag team, that's fine, but you're the person who's actively in the ring does not have to tag out. There's nothing forcing them. So it's not like, oh, if you fall below 10, you have to tag out. No, you can probably house rule it, which is fine. But I don't think the gameplay will be as exciting for your team member who's sitting there watching you roll your dice and have fun while they're just waiting. So I wouldn't consider that an option. I would just say do a 4-player free-for-all if you have it, and then have that. So you're going to have, again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There are 8 health trackers, and yet this is 2 to 6. I, again, don't understand it. Maybe I missed a rule in the book, so if someone out there has this game, maybe you can explain that to me, why that's the case. And then you'll have your character cards. Your character cards will have their character, their name. So El Perrito, and I have terrible accent impersonation, so excuse me if I pronounce these wrong. And you'll see that he's got his symbols and results for what his luchador die would give him. So, for example, if he rolled this face, it would beware of the dog, and it's 4 points of damage. Or scratch that flea, it's 5 points of damage. Or dog fight dive, which is 7 points of damage. Now, if you look, and you'd think, initially when I saw this, I thought, oh, cool. So they each have their own unique luchador die ability and whatever damage it does. But when you look at all the other characters, it's exactly the same distribution. 4, 5, 7, 4, 5, 7, 4, 5, 7, 4, 5, 7, 4, 5, 7, all of them, 4, 5, 7. So when I saw that, I thought, oh, so I guess the first edition, that's the complaint, or part of the complaint. So what on earth would make me want to choose El Perrito versus Bam Bam on Fugo? What's the point? There is no point, right? So the only thing that differs really is the text. El Perrito bounces off the ropes, runs towards his opponent, then drops and slides across the mat, delivering a shattering forearm smash into their gut. Oh! So if you're with a group of players or a group of friends who love wrestling or Mexican wrestling, and you're okay actually doing this, then it makes sense. Have your buddy stand there, and you jump off the couch, run towards him, drop and slide through, and give them a shattering forearm smash into their gut, then by all means, this is unique. Every character is unique, right? But obviously, you're not going to do that to an 8-year-old, or maybe, I don't know. And so there's no uniqueness in this character. But it's an enjoyable read. Bam Bam's hot foot. As his opponent charges forward, Bam Bam spins and drives a flying kick into their upper body with a loud thwack as the crowd screams in horror. So there. I think this is more about delivery. This is more about presentation as opposed to actual gameplay. But still enjoyable. I think, if you read it. But for second edition, they finally gave you unique, I'm going to call it unique abilities or traits. Now, I kind of feel like the people who bought the first edition totally miss out. They could easily just have sold as a separate add-on pack for this to make it a bit, give it a second boost of life for people who found the first edition a little meh. So let's take a look. Let's go to El Perito. El Perito. He has a strength, and this is all the same in terms of the language between each character. They'll have a strength, they'll have a weakness, and then they're going to have a killer combination, which I think is really interesting. So in this example, his strength is he's huge. He has sheer bulk and muscle, means that when he hits hard. So he gains a +1 bonus damage on strength attacks. Now, the problem here is they don't really explain what a strength attack is, but at least they tell you what the extra point gets. So for forearm smash, he scores 2 points of damage instead of 1, and for a chokehold, he scores 3 points of damage instead of 2. So those are the only two when you roll them on the hit die, the forearm smash or chokehold. Instead of scoring 2 points of damage, he would get 3. Now, he has a weakness. El Perito is very slow and heavy. The sheer effort it takes him to get both feet off the ground at the same time means that there are some attacks that he cannot do or do very often. So he has a penalty. He cannot perform a dropkick attack. So any of the results that you have, if you roll your attack die or attack type die, if you roll the dropkick, it actually is nothing. It doesn't count as nothing. So it's basically as if it was a fail. So then you also have each character has a killer combination. Now, how unique are these? It depends. They each have a different combination of what they roll. So in this example, actually, I'll use what's a good one here? This one. I'll use La Tormenta Muerta. His combination, killer combination, is combination trigger. If he so happens to roll, let's say he rolls 2 fists on his wrestling die, 2 fists and a counter. Instead of resolving these independently, he could then instead, after resolving the other dice, he can then use this instead, and he would actually trade these in for one of the hit dice, a pin die, and the luchador die. And so instead of resolving the initial wrestling dice that he had, he would roll these instead, and then he would resolve these results instead. So in this case, he would activate his second level luchador. He would get a drop kick in if he can do it. But on the pin, he failed. Or he might be able to do a pin, or he would stun, or he would do a Viva Luchador. So that is, again, from this point forward, each character then does have something unique. A unique strength. Sometimes it adds an extra hit. Sometimes it has an extra leverage. But then the weaknesses are also almost counteract that strength. But it's thematic, and they have a nice story behind it. So his weakness for La Tormenta is vanity. His overconfidence means that La Tormenta has a tendency to show off a little bit too often and for a little bit too long. As he struts around the ring playing the crowd, his opponents often take the chance to catch him off guard. If La Tormenta rolls a Viva Luchador result on a pin die, he gains +1 to his strength as normal, but his opponent gains an instant free pin roll. So, kind of thematic in terms of based on the text here and the penalty that you get. So they each have that for them. And I think this is considered part of the advanced rules. So under normal circumstances, just like the first edition, you would just play with just this one. But now you'd be adding in their advanced rule set, which is the strength and weakness. And I think this comes into play when you're playing with the appropriate group. Like your group has to be able to keep track of their strength and weaknesses. So I may not necessarily play this with an 8-year-old unless I feel that, yeah, just keep in mind your strength and weakness and be able to apply it, and also know when you want to initiate your killer combination. But for, again, I'm going to call it advanced players or more seasoned players who can have no problem keeping track of that, then by all means, you can do that. So that pretty much goes through all the components and a rough rundown of the rules. I don't think I missed anything. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to have, well, there's not much to set up, but I'm going to have the table set up with the ring, and a match between two Luchador wrestlers. And I'll get the table set up, and I'll see you soon. All right, I'm back. I've got my table set up for a game of Luchador Mexican Wrestling Dice. Now, I've already gone through the components and the rule set. I forgot to mention something about the components, which was in terms of the card quality and overall quality. Obviously, the ring I think is fantastic. The dice, I feel, they're standard 16 mil dice, rounded. They roll well, and it looks like my only complaint is that it's printed on the graphics as opposed to etched in, but that's okay. And the card quality of these are pretty good, and as well as they have a very interesting linen finish. It looks very shiny and slippery, but it's actually not. It actually is very tacky, and I don't know how they do that, but it's very tacky. And that's good when you're using the token to keep track of their health, so it doesn't slide around too much. I think for the price point, I'm not asking for much. I don't think I would ask for a dual layer board, but it would be nice. Okay, so I've got my two. I've decided to go have in one corner Bam Bam on Fugo, and in the other corner La Tormenta Murta. And they're both going to start off at the health of 21. And I'm going to take their two dice, and just for the sake of argument, I'm going to move their standees outside as opposed to inside. And I'll just I'll lay them down just for better view for you. And if necessary, I might have a sort of a screen shot just for a lower level enjoyment of the dice roll up probably in one of these corners up here. So okay, so here we go. I'm gonna Bam Bam is red, and Tormenta is blue. So again, you're gonna be rolling your dice. Okay, and obviously anything that falls out is not counted, and any pins symbols can be re-rolled once. So what we're going to do is we're going to line these up, and we're going to see how we want to match these up. Obviously, I have a missed hand here, or the miss, so that's going to go out. So we're going to have one fist, and a counter. So obviously, Tormenta is going to counter Bam Bam's punch, and he's going to counter one of his punches, and that's it. So in total, Tormenta has 3 hits, 1 for the counter, and 2 for the unblocked hits, and Bam Bam has 1 counter for 1. So we'll start with Tormenta. He's going to roll his 3 hit dice, and if these fall out, if this particular roll falls out of the ring, it's fine. It's only the wrestling dice. Anything that falls out doesn't count. So he's going to do a table slam for 3, a backhand chop for 1, and a drop kick for 1. Now, in terms of their special abilities, for La Tormenta, his strength is in any round where La Tormenta has rolled 1 or more unblocked or uncountered hit, La Tormenta may force an opponent to re-roll 1 wrestling dice of his choice. So I missed that opportunity, but that's fine. And his weakness is if La Tormenta rolls a Viva Luchador result on a pin die, he gains +1 to his strength, but his opponent gets an instant free pin roll. For Bam Bam, his strength is he excels in the air. Bam Bam's drop kick scores 2 points of extra damage. 2 points of extra damage instead of 1. And then so in total, his drop kick is equal to 3 points of damage if he lands it. And then his weakness is any fail results rolled by Bam Bam on the Lucha dice count as an injury and results in an instant stun, which means he rolls 1 less dice the next round. So again, trying to keep in mind every player. I might forget that because I'm doubling up here in terms of responsibility, but hopefully I won't miss too many. And also, I also missed that chance here because he had 2 hits. He could have traded that in for 1 Luchador dice roll. One of the things I would house rule is I feel like this can happen too often where you have more than 2 hits. So you'd be rolling this and issuing, 4, 5, 7 points of damage. And yeah, then maybe that's why it gets 15 minutes tops. So you can house rule that. Maybe you need a little bit harder, maybe 3 or more, successful hits, unblocked hits. So in this case, he's doing a total of 3, 4, 5, because he doesn't have anything. So 3, 4, 5, which means that he gets 5 hits, 5 points of damage on Bam Bam. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and Bam Bam now sits at 16. And Bam Bam gets to roll for his one hit. He gets to do a chair smash, which does 2 damage to La Tormenta, which means he's down to 19. And that ends that one round. So they're going to do again. You're going to roll. Okay, everything stays in this time. So we've got a bunch of no success. And let's see. Is he going to land? He's got a hit, a counter. We got a miss here. We got a block and 2 hits. So how we're going to do this is we will obviously block. Bam Bam will block his hit. He will counter. La Tormenta will counter one of Bam Bam's hits, and Bam Bam has 1. So in total, they each get 1 apiece because this is negated. Nothing happens here. This one is a counter, which means Tormenta gets 1 hit, successful hit. And this is unblocked, which means Bam Bam gets a successful hit on them. So it'll be 1 apiece. So we'll start with Tormenta to roll his hit. He gets a drop kick, which then lands a single hit on Bam Bam, and Bam Bam's going to roll, and he gets a chokehold for 2. So Tormenta is at 17 health, Bam Bam is at 15 health, and that is that. So we're going to roll again. Next round. Oh, Bam Bam lost 1. He's got a couple, okay, and he's got a couple hits and counters. Oh, there's quite a bit here. So in this situation, we've got a counter for La Tormenta, and then 2 more successful hits on for Tormenta. So he has a total of 1, 2, 3, 4 hits that were successful, and Bam Bam only gets 1. So in this situation, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to trade in 2 of my hits twice. So I'm going to roll the Luchador dice twice for Tormenta. Okay, so he gets his, doesn't get any better than that, his ultimate, which is the Meteor Storm. La Tormenta launches himself from the top rope, pressing his knees to his chest as he tumbles in midair before crashing like a rock onto his unfortunate opponent for 7 points. So that's 7 points. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then he gets to roll it again. And he gets his weakest one out of his lucha, which is the lightning spike. Having knocked his opponent flat onto their back, La Tormenta drops and drives his elbow directly onto the stunned luchador's chest. So for another 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so not only is Bam Bam down to 4 health, but he's also pinnable because he's 14 or less in terms of his health. So if Tormenta so happens to roll a pin the next round, then he might have that chance, and hopefully I'll get that chance. So Bam Bam gets to do his roll. He does a karate chop or backhand chop for 1 point, and that goes back here. And then that's it. So now we're going on to the next round. Okay, everything stays in. No pins, so I feel like this is going to be a probably a knockout for La Tormenta. So let's try and see what happens here. Or maybe not. Oh no. Okay, a lot of blocks and counters. Okay. So in this example, the only hit here is from Bam Bam, which can be countered by La Tormenta. Now the rest here, they don't do anything because these are all just blocks and counters. If there's nothing to counter or nothing to block, they don't do anything. They're just sort of nil. So in this situation, La Tormenta actually gets 1 hit, and he'll roll his hit die. So we'll take that out, roll the hit die. For a backhand chop, which puts 1 damage, and it's down to 3 for Bam Bam, and then they move along. Oh, Tormenta lost 1. This is okay, so before I move that, so you'll see I have 1 pin, and that's for Bam Bam. He can't pin La Tormenta. Even if he could, it's a choice. You can either save it for a pin after you resolve all the faces, or you can re-roll it once. So I'm going to re-roll it, and I'm going to try to go for that. Oh, darn. Okay, and I got an empty-hander, so not too good, not too good. I got a hit, a block, and he's got a counter. So he's going to counter, La Tormenta will counter Bam Bam's hit. He will, Bam Bam will block one of his, Tormenta's hits. So that means in total, Tormenta has 2 hits, whereas Bam Bam has nothing. So let's not, let's assume this. I'm just going to do a scenario here. So he gets a block and a pin. Okay, so let's assume that this was the result. So it's a block, and a pin. He Tormenta blocked one hit. Bam Bam blocked Tormenta's hit. So that means it's nil. Nothing happens. There's no successful lands of a hit, but there's an opportunity for a pin. So we're going to take the dice out, and if La Tormenta rolled multiple pins, he can initiate a pin attempt for each one that he rolled. So in this case, it's 1. So he's going to take his pin die and he's going to roll it, and it's a fail. So this one's a fail. Now let's assume it was, if it was, we know the other ones. If it's a Viva Luchador, he will gain 1 strength, but his opponent would gain an instant pin, which that person would roll, and they could potentially roll this symbol, which is a pin. So anyways, let's just say that La Tormenta rolled the successful pin. So at this point, the opponent, or in this case Bam Bam, has 3 attempts to roll 3 blocks of any kind, either the counter or the straight out block. So it's either 3 of these or 3 of these, or any combination as long as it totals 3. So, and in, I guess, wrestling style, you'll be counting out the 3 count. 1! And those don't count. Whatever falls out, that's 1. Okay? And then you roll the remainder. 2! Oh, not yet. And 3! Oh, okay. So, if I was able to roll 3 blocks, either counter or a block, by the 3rd count, then Bam Bam is fine. He kicks out, pulls up the shoulder, rolls away, and he lives to fight another day. But in this situation, because I did not roll 3 blocks, he's immediately pinned, and despite still having a health of 3, he loses. So that's the losing condition. The 2 losing conditions is either you get not KO'd, which is you've taken such a beating and that's it, or you get pinned out. And then pinning could happen as early as where you're at 14 health. So you can house rule that too if you feel that at 14, you're not even halfway, through your health, and it kind of seems unrealistic that at half your health and half your energy you would be able to succumb to a pin. Then you can drop that down to 10 or 8 or 9 or whatever, and you can house rule that as long as it's unanimous across the board. So I think that's pretty much most of the conditions. If it was 4 players, and again, if it was 4 players and you're doing tag team, you'd have 2 in the ring, and at any point in time, one person can tag their partner in, and they would, I guess, take over. And I'm assuming that would be at the beginning of the round. I'm not sure if they do it. There's no specific rule saying that you roll your dice and then your opponent comes in afterwards, or not your opponent, your tag team player comes in afterwards, because at that point, there's no benefit to them. They're just resolving the results that you just rolled. But quite honestly, if I were to play with 3 other people, I would just do it free-for-all. Everyone rolls their dice all in at the same time, mass chaos of all the dice, sort them out, figure out, and then using the tokens to randomly determine player order, that person would then be able to sort of choose who they want to land their strikes against, or who they want to fight against, and resolve it accordingly. So I think that's a bit more interesting. But my gut feeling is that this is best at 2. This is best as a 2-player game, and maybe you can, if you have more friends that want to get in on the action, then do a round robin. Set up a championship of some kind. That makes it a lot more interesting. The rounds are only 15, 20 minutes long. While they're grabbing a beer or watching the game, hey, John, your turn. Jump in. You're up against La Tormenta. And then all of a sudden, you've got sort of this in-between break as the wrestling match is going on, rather than sort of this mass chaos where you're trying to figure out tag team rules or free-for-all. So, all in all, that is basically the gist of the game. Luchador Mexican Dice, Wrestling Dice. It's I think for the price, the retail price. Now I got this just below retail, so I'm gonna assume that yes, it's pretty much retail price. The quality, I think, is good quality for what you're paying. Is it worth every dime? It's debatable. I like the 3D ring. The cardboard standees, it's a nice touch. And mind you, they give you, again, six standees. Sorry, not 6 standees. 6 stands for your standees. But again, 8 health trackers. I still don't understand that. Maybe 2 are extra, or it's a misprint. Um, I think that if you like the randomness of dice chucking, sort of a very silly play on the idea of wrestling in itself, and you enjoy reading the text of their various skills, weaknesses, and strengths, I got to tell you, when you read it, it's pretty humorous. I think they at least put the effort in coming up with something unique for each wrestler that makes it funny to read and sort of, again, if you love wrestling, then you'll have no problem either envisioning it or actually trying to do it. So I think this is it's pretty fun. I get it as a family game. It's not strategic because it's all luck. You've got multiple luck. You've got multiple luck in this. You've got luck in this. You've got luck with these, and you've got luck with this. Because with each sets of dice here that you have, there's at least one fail. So you could land a bunch of, oh, sorry, maybe not these ones. There's no fail here. But with each one of these ones, there's at least one chance that you might have a complete miss or have everything blocked, and then you have a stalemate. But then you'll have possible rolls where your opponent has countered everything, or you've missed everything and they land 4 punches, and then they're rolling 4 of these, and then if they still happen to roll all 4 table slams, then all of a sudden you've got 12 points deducted off of you, and the next thing you know, the next round they get a pin and they get the pin, and then you roll for the 3 count, and you don't make that the 3 blocks that you need, and that could end the game within 10 minutes, not even. So I think because there's no way here to really consciously mitigate something. So it's not like, let's say if you had 3 tokens, ability tokens or special move tokens, and they roll the pin, and you pull out the Superfly token, and the next thing you know, you dodge that one pin. You have a chance to mitigate, or you have a chance to do a Superfly reroll, and you do it. So you can re-roll your dice one more time. You've got 3 opportunities to sort of strategically, I'm not going to call it loosely, strategically, well-timed re-rolls that you just might need that could make the difference between pin, no pin, or failure. So I think if you included a house rule like that, then maybe use these extra health tokens as those 3 that you need to call it out and say, hey, I do a reroll on that, just to save me. But you only get 3 chances to do that during the course of the match. So you want to use them wisely. And when you think you need them most, maybe when your health is down to 2. So without any way to mitigate, this is all random, all luck. And if you have the mindset going into this thinking, you just want to have some dice chucking, wrestling, move type of fun, then this works. I wouldn't take it any more serious than what you see here and what I've demonstrated for you. So there you go. That's Luchador Mexican Wrestling Dice. I get it, family-friendly dice chucking wrestling madness that I think has a very well-placed theme, and it works with the content of the character cards and the way that the various dice are being utilized. So hope you enjoyed it, and until next time, stay bored.